Hey guys, Ben Paynes here, and today we are back with another video at Teamsport Bristol for another Monday night social event. This time we are not at Cardiff, but we are instead back at Bristol, back to where we are familiar and comfortable with. However, in this session I did not seem to be very comfortable at all, because I really was sliding all over the track, as you'll see throughout the remainder of the video. But before we get into it, I'd just like to say, if you are new here, could you please hit the subscribe button, and if you do enjoy the video, could you give it a like as well, as it really does help me out and encourages me to make some more videos. But as you can see on the first lap here coming around, the track really was very slippy today, and the first lap was in fact a 38.361, which from my standards I really wasn't happy with. And the first two sessions I completed, the track felt very cold compared to what it has been for the last few weeks. Instead of being extremely grippy, instead I was sliding all over the place. I couldn't find the right lines and the time just was not coming. But here, right at the beginning of the session, we are right behind the person in cart number 18 and trying to get past as quickly as possible so we can continue along our way and try to lap as fast as we can. And we come across the second lap here, gaining a little bit of time. Obviously, being behind traffic, it did hold us up a little bit as we get a 39.229, and we can see from the other drivers here sliding all over the place. I wasn't too much better. The back end really did not feel stable at all, and here up the ramp we look for the inside, and luckily we do manage to dive down the inside and get ahead, so we do not continue to be held up, and we look to the person ahead of us once again. And this was a good session for me to try and practice my overtaking, as that is, as we saw last week at the Monday Night Social in Cardiff, something that I was struggling with. However, I thought here, as my lap times were very slow, and I did also have a couple of other slow laps throughout the sessions that I completed, to hold back and really maximise my time on the track by waiting for the three fastest drivers that were going around the group together. And we will skip forward here, as it is me just trundling around the track. And as we skip forward a lap or two, we can see that my last lap was actually a 53.722. I managed to slow down quite a fair bit over those last few laps, and this allowed the three elite member drivers here to sort of go past, and I really wanted to tag along behind them and try and set some quick laps, as I said, for the other two sessions on this evening I was very slow and I really couldn't seem to find the line. So I thought that if I could get behind them, as you can see the yellow flags here do begin to slow us down, and I thought I could sort of catch up and tag along behind. However, I didn't want to go too fast. There was a bit of an incident. I didn't want to rush up behind them, but my thought process here was just to try and get as close as possible so I could try and follow the lines that they were taking and try and apply the throttle in a softer and more approachable manner compared to how I was in the other two sessions. I really wasn't using the same care and attention I have done in the last few weeks, and that meant that I was just sliding around all over the place. And I think this was a lack of concentration due to the fact that I was extremely fatigued and tired due to external factors, and that there showed it straight away, as in the first lap we have lost so much time through those corners, and that lap was in fact a 39.278. and as I said, I was extremely tired. I'd been on holiday the same day that I had been participating in this session, and the fact that I had 4 hours sleep that evening really did play a massive part into my mentality going around the track, as I did find it very difficult to focus and actually get into the groove of things as I usually do. And here we can see that my plan has failed, as the three drivers ahead seem to now be racing away, as they have dispatched the driver in front of me in the number 10 car, and I still could not get to grips with, well, the grip on the track, as that was actually my fastest lap so far with 38.198, which, as I've said before, is absolutely nowhere near my fastest lap at the track, which is in fact a 36.6. So clearly a lot was going wrong in this session. I tried to go up the inside here of this fellow on the left hand side, but we do manage to pull it off around my favourite corner for overtaking. And here I was looking ahead, trying to catch up with, once again, those three drivers ahead, but the gap here was actually very large, and I was pushing, and there you can see I did in fact hit the wall on the left, and I kept doing that throughout the session as I could not get to grips with the ground and the surface. And there, as I did perform an overtake, I was a little bit slower, going at 38.477, and you can see compared to the other videos at the track, the way I just could not find the right lines to get the power down the kart without it slipping all over the place. And here I was trying to take a little bit of a tighter line on the top right hander there, because when I was performing in the GP1 event, I found that that was actually a far better line to shorten the track in comparison to taking a wide line and trying to carry the speed through, as it didn't really make too much of a difference. And there again, hitting the wall on the left hand side, and in clean air once more, just with a faster lap with a 38.195, so the times are slowly coming down, however they're completely off the pace to where I want to be, and I really was still looking towards the people ahead of me as we head up the ramp once more. As I said, there are good days and there are bad days, but this clearly was a really bad day for me, as I was completely off the pace. I think overall I finished about 11th fastest for the evening, which is not where I want to be at all. I want to be fighting for the fastest laps and trying to be as good as I can. And there, on that last corner, the big right hander, I really was all over the place, and I wasn't being as consistent and as smooth as I used to, and I was taking all the wrong lines going into this first corner. And here I noticed that if you swing to the right and then back to the left and then back into the right once more for this bottom hairpin, you do actually seem to carry some sort of faster speed, or it felt a lot faster throwing the kart from left to right, although the track is then maximised in length compared to being a shorter track length. So I was trying to figure out if that was helping me to be quicker, and we'll see as we come round the right hander once more, a little bit of a better exit that time as we weren't hitting the wall, and that did result in a 37.822, so I think it did help quite a bit. Well, it felt like it did in my head, and here I was actually starting to catch up to the people ahead, as they were also being held up by some of the slower drivers, which really in my head was helping me quite a bit. However, I just didn't have the pace to keep up to where I wanted to be, and this was quite frustrating, as I knew I did have a lot of a faster time in me. I just couldn't put it together in one lap, and evidently I was getting more and more frustrated, which meant I was driving angry, and this just led to me just not performing as well as I could, and there with a 37.647, so the times are now drastically starting to drop as I was getting into a bit more of a rhythm. However, it wasn't a rhythm of where I wanted to be, and here we were catching up to the driver in the red suit ahead of us. At this point I think we were about halfway into the session, and I really did close the gap up on the person in number 14 car, and I was also closing the gap up to the three drivers that I was looking to hunt down and try and keep up with, and this was obviously due to the fact that they were being held up by the two drivers ahead. And here I really am bumper to bumper with the person number 14, pretty much pushing them down the main straight. And as I was getting frustrated, I think I was also just getting a bit annoyed, and there just a couple of little taps just making the driver sort of make my presence known I was there, and luckily waved me through, and I managed to overtake both karts on the same corner, as the person ahead of him seemed to go wide. And there, as we saw, the lap previously was also very close to the fastest lap of the session for myself. And here we were now once again in some clean air, trying to hunt down the people ahead of us. And I noticed that after watching the videos that little metal strip on the floor, if you could manage to get past there at around the 29 to 30 second mark, then you are on to a good lap. However, due to the slidiness of the session, I really was getting to that point at around 30 seconds, which is obviously around a second slower than where I wanted to be. And here, even on this bottom hairpin corner, as I look back to see if anyone was following me or quicker than me, as I did feel quite slow in the session, I really was trying to get the correct line out of the corner, but I really was struggling. And the same with here, I was counter steering a lot. There was not a lot of just a smooth application of steering. It was, as you can see there, it was left right. It wasn't as smooth as I'd like it to be. And despite that, we did manage to cross the line with a 37.632, which was in fact my fastest lap of the session. And I really was unable to beat that time for the rest of the session, because, as you will see through the next few laps, I did actually manage to get stuck behind a lot of traffic here, and I really struggled to actually make some clean air and then follow my way through to the three drivers ahead. As you can see here is one of them in the blue suit. He is one of the three drivers that I was looking to catch up with, and he is also stuck in the train of karts that is just going around at the same sort of speed, and unfortunately this meant that I really was unable to actually get a faster lap in. And here we really have closed up to the back of the train immediately, and we're behind this fellow in the orange suit here, and I was looking for a way past, and I was hoping to get past them up the ramp, but instead I got a bad exit, and this meant that they were able to just shoot up the ramp and get ahead for another lap. So I was sort of stuck and at the mercy of them for the next lap, and you can see they really were wide. They weren't controlling the kart as well as I think they could have been able to do, and that was obviously due to the conditions. And this meant I was sort of stuck behind them, and here once again down the start finish straight I tried to duck in on the right hand side, but I backed out as I didn't want to go too wide across the line. And here, as you can see, from being stuck, we are in fact getting a lot slower laps now, a second slower than we were a few laps previously, and stuck behind the car here, bumping into them. I tried to get a better exit this time onto the ramp, and here we were side by side, and this allowed me to go down the inside of them on that line, which is faster. As you know, from being tighter to the corner, it does mean that you can minimise the track length. And here once more we catch up to another driver here in an orange helmet, and they were doing some quite tidy lines, however they were not controlling the back of the car as well as they could, and this meant once more that I was able to really close up behind them and put them under pressure, as I wanted to try and get past as fast as possible. As you can see, the other three drivers I was following have already shot off into the distance, and here I was trying to come up behind them and overtake up the ramp. Unfortunately I bumped into the back of them, and it sort of slowed me down. And this driver was also driving quite defensively, which meant it was reasonably difficult to actually get past. I didn't really want to just dive it down the inside and force them out of the way, so I held back and tried to wait for a better opportunity to get past, which in fact was probably the best decision. As we can see here, this probably was my best overtake of the session. We went side by side down the start finish straight when neither of us backed out, and then I sort of slowed down and managed to get to the apex of the first corner or second corner a lot sooner, and this meant that I was able to overtake in a bit of an unorthodox position compared to what I usually overtake, which is just at the top of the ramp. And I was checking back there just to see if they were keeping up with me, but I managed to force them wide, so I did actually gain a bit of a gap, which gave me a bit of breathing room to sort of focus and settle back in and try and set some faster laps again. But once more you can see there are another two drivers in between myself and the faster cars ahead, which really was making me find quite difficult to catch up. And here obviously with that battle we managed to get a 38-second lap, which wasn't actually the fastest lap that I could perform, but instead I was able to catch up quite quickly to the other two cars that were ahead. And here I really was trying to keep up. We could see one person there just diving it down the inside on my favourite corner for overtaking, and this meant once more as they were battling that I was able to really close up the gap and get behind the driver in number 19, and I really wanted to overtake and try and get a nice fast lap in for the end of the session, as I knew that it was coming to the end. And for the whole session I was finding it reasonably difficult to actually find some space to get a fast lap, and here as I knew it was coming to the end I was getting a little bit frustrated here and sort of pushing the driver ahead around, and they did start to go wide on this corner, and I tried to get a better run, but clearly they went defensive, as I probably would too if someone bumped me around as much as I was in that bottom section, which was completely by accident as I carried way too much speed into that first corner. And once again really closing up behind them and tagging along behind, looking for an opportunity to overtake. You can see there, not even meaning to bump into the back of them, but just carrying a bit too much speed through that last corner. But that in fact was the last lap of the session, as I do sort of lunge down the inside to try and make some more space. I didn't realise it was the last lap of the session, but that was actually a 39.182, which wasn't the best times that I could have performed compared to what I usually do. However, this does bring us to the end of the video, and as I said, there are ups and there are downs. We're not always going to beat our PB, and this was evidence of a bad day at the office. But if you did enjoy the video, could you please hit a like and subscribe for more in the future. I'll catch you guys in a bit, and take care.